Hey Salties, it's Caribbean Chris from Saltwater Smarts back with another episode of Salt Speak. Today I'm going to be chatting with Larry DuPont of Larry's Reef Services. We're going to talk about the types of ingredients that go into frozen foods, the types of things that you should look out for when making a purchase, as well as the processes that are involved with making high quality fish food blends. So enjoy the chat and I'll check in afterwards to fill in any blanks. Alright everybody, today I'm here with Larry DuPont of Larry's Reef Services, makers of LRS Foods. You'll probably know them by LRS Reef Frenzy and the other blends that they make. What we're going to do today is talk a bit about frozen food in general, and then we'll talk about some of Larry's products. So right off the top, Larry, let's talk about what seafood ingredients are commonly found in frozen foods.
Well, Chris, I think if you do a survey of your local fish stores' freezers, you'll find everything from mysis shrimp, brine shrimp, plankton. You'll find various forms of fresh seafood ingredients such as shrimp or scallops or perch. Many of the blended foods out there, or the specialty boutique foods, as I refer to our food as, have oftentimes a lot of different ingredients in them. So, you want to try to find a food that is similar to what they would eat in the wild. Also, a diverse diet is very beneficial. So I would look at the ingredient labels and see what you can find that would round out their diet. So whether it would be mysis shrimp, brine shrimp, some of the other foods I mentioned, things like that.
Okay, great. Now, aside from the actual seafood ingredients in the food, what about non-seafood ingredients that hobbyists might encounter? What's good to have in there? What isn't so good? What's more of just a filler?
With regards to foods, I don't know that there's that many deleterious products such as fillers. That's some things that are used in a lot of dry foods because you have to have some type of binder when you extract the moisture out of the seafood product.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you have good, fresh, wholesome ingredients in the food, things that have not been deteriorated due to excessive thawing, freezing, packaging, shipping, transit times, things like that. So you want to try to avoid any items that wouldn't be beneficial, such as excessive amounts of garlic. I know garlic is one of those things that hobbyists, think is a miracle cure-all. The active ingredient in garlic, which is allicin, is actually an enzyme, or actually it's difficult for marine fish to break down that substance, and it can also have negative effects in their organs that build up over time. There have been several studies that have shown that. So you want to avoid excessive amounts of garlic in foods. Any type of terrestrial greens that you might see people adding on Facebook, such as romaine lettuce or other lettuces, or things that have a lot of cellulose or fibrous tissue that's hard for the fish to digest. Certain things can be beneficial, like broccoli flowers that are blanched or frozen and then thawed to help break down that cellulose for digestion. But I think you would not find a whole lot of things in frozen foods that shouldn't be there. Not that I've seen in my experience, unless you're looking at some of the ultra-processed foods that do have some of the binders and the gelatins and some of the other vitamins and things that are added. Typically, a lot of those would be in a cube-type product if you look around.
Okay.
But, the ingredient label should give you a nice way to, find your way through the freezer and pick out a product that is good and desirable for your fish.
Okay. So in terms of ingredients that a hobbyist should avoid, would you say that's probably those binders or the gelatins that you mentioned?
Well, the gelatins and binders, get a bad rep, but they're not oftentimes, there's an agar binder that's made from a naturally occurring seaweed.
Okay.
And we've experimented with that for a couple specialty blends we've made on limited commission runs. So just because there's a natural agar binder in a food doesn't mean it's bad. If you're making a broodstock diet, many people will add things like fatty acids or fish oil or supplements to their puree food. And because you're using it for maybe smaller clownfish or some other specialty projects, you may want to add a binder to it to make it more like oatmeal or more consistent so that it doesn't disperse into the water column. So to say that all binders are bad, I wouldn't make that assumption. That there are people that have asked us to add binders for certain blends, and we've done that with great success. If you're talking about a filler, again, things like wheat germ or other things like that are going to take up space in the package, which would displace other natural ingredients, I would watch out for that. But I don't think you see a whole lot of that in frozen, not at least in my experience.
Okay, sounds good. So, in terms of frozen versus other types of fish foods, what are the benefits over those other options?
I think what we've seen in the past few years is that obviously, if you're looking at wild caught fish or fish that are in the ocean, they're going to be feeding on live feeds a lot of the times. And obviously, as a hobbyist, it's difficult to often have live feed. So you want to take the next step down, which would be a frozen product that is, not molested excessively, meaning processed and have chemical treatments and things like that. It hasn't been denatured by excessive freezing and thawing, which can break down the cell structure of the food. So you want to have a nice fresh product with good quality ingredients that's going to have the most nutrition closest to it being live. And the further and more the foods will get processed down into, say, pellet or flake or dry or other foods, you may start to see some of those amino acids get broken down, and some of the proteins are less high quality than they would have been at a good quality frozen food.
Okay.
Particularly when we talk a little bit later about some of the breeding projects in aquaculture, a lot of those benefits from the frozen foods, it's expressed to us that they're coming from the seafood ingredients, which are still very rich in almost their intact form. So,
Okay.
I hope that kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, definitely. That's perfect. So, as a hobbyist walking up to the freezer at their local fish store, what would you suggest they look for when they're looking to make a purchase?
Um, I try to tell people on Facebook or in the various groups and forums that we sponsor, there's a lot of good quality foods out there. So I just encourage people to open up their mind, look over the package, read the label, educate themselves both with online and websites. Talk to the personnel at the fish store. There's a lot of products to choose from, and you can get lost if you don't have a little bit of guidance. What I don't like to encourage people to do is just pick one food item, whether it could be ABC product, and just feed that all the time. Because if you're feeding one specific organism, let's say it's an individual product, and you could pick any of them, say mysis, brine, plankton, krill, whatever, you're not going to get the benefit as you would as if you mixed it up a little bit and give them some other varied diet. So I like to tell people to read the labels, look at what's been tested, look at what has a truthful, honest label on the packaging. Talk to the personnel at the fish store, ask them what luck they've had, ask them if they're feeding this product in the store so you can see it. And then just kind of go from there and just pick a few good key foods that you like that are quality, good value, and appear to have a good ingredient label that you can decipher what's in there.
Okay. Now, in terms of if they have manufacturer dates or anything like that, what should somebody look out for?
Depending on how frozen food is stored, its shelf life can change drastically. So, for example, at our cold storage facility, it's kept below -20. Our freezers on site here are kept below -24 to -30. And if food is kept colder longer, it will last a lot longer than, say, in your residential freezer, which may creep up to freezing temperature throughout the day. And especially in a retail pet store that doesn't have a commercial freezer and has a residential freezer that is opened 30, 40 times during peak business hours per hour, the foods can be allowed to get warmer. So you want to look at the food, inspect your purchase, make sure that if it's a flat sheet of product that it's still flat, it's not lumpy, indicating that it could have been frozen and rethawed, vice versa. And just look at the manufacturer date. Not all products have an expiration date on them because it can vary widely, and there's really no way to tell if a pack of, say, mysis shrimp was frozen on January 1. No one can say that I'm aware of that come August 5th that all of a sudden it goes bad.
Right.
It may last from another whole year in that freezer. In your freezer, it may expire quicker because you allow your food to sit out longer when you break it open to take out for feeding, or your temperature of your freezer is not as well controlled. So I think the visual cues of the product will tell you when it's fresh. If it's still vibrant, does it not have freezer burn inside of it? Or is there not ice crystals that are visible? You can tell, just like when you go to buy food or you go to get something out of your freezer at home, when a steak looks good, and when that steak has been, ice crystals and it's brown, right. It's old. And so just use the same type of judgment when you're picking your food.
All right, sounds good. So now that we've kind of gone over frozen food in general, I just wanted to dig into your business, and so let's right off the top, let's talk about what Larry's Reef Services is and how it got started.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody knows at this point that I used to be in law enforcement, and I had a small service business on the side. I used to clean aquariums, and we started making food for our 600-gallon plus saltwater aquariums here by just going down to the local wholesaler and getting fresh seafood and blending it up and making it for our fish. And then some of my clients were using it. We gave it some of the local fish stores. And then over the past 3 years, it's just snowballed into a international company where we're shipping to almost 300 retail stores. But along the way, we've had the benefit of networking with a lot of industry insiders to help make the products the absolute best that they could. So we've done things over time, such as adding beta-carotene. We've added things like probiotics. We've got fatty acids. We've done a lot of testing with laboratories to get our foods to be what we think is a really good, complete, beneficial diet for all captive marine fish. Clearly, I think we entered a very overcrowded market with a very hands-on and very transparent family approach. We do have a farm. We have a family-based business on our farm. It's a commercial kitchen, so it's licensed by the state of North Carolina, Department of Agriculture, to be here in a commercial setting, but it's still like right now I'm on my back patio. It's Friday afternoon at 3:30, and we have the ability to walk over there and work on the food, but then still come back over here and have the convenience of home life. So I think that over the last 3 years, the business has just grown through the transparency of our products and our ingredients and the results that they give. So
Yeah, all right. So this is always an interesting question for me in terms of getting a glimpse into an entrepreneur's weekly life. What would you say is a typical weekly schedule at LRS HQ? Typical in quotes, because I know there's not really any norm usually. But, in general, what are you doing weekly?
yeah, that's a great question. We've got it down to a science now. Every Monday and Thursday, we get the seafood deliveries show up. They come from the coast of Wilmington, North Carolina. They bring in the fresh, unmolested seafoods. We get everything that we can chemically free, which means there's no phosphate rinses on it. Mm-hmm. So on Mondays at 7:30, we will get 400 pounds of dry ice every Monday. And then at 8 to 9, the first delivery of seafood comes. And Mondays are a very big shipping day for us. That's when we try to get everything shipped that we can. So we don't really try to make food on Mondays. However, lately, we've been making specialty blends for some service companies that desire different foods. So Monday is a good day to fit in those non-retail packages because they're made in smaller amounts.
Okay.
Then on Tuesday through Thursdays, we're making considerable amounts of food every day. So we start at 7 a.m. in the morning. We start making the food. We get done by mid-afternoon, and then we have to also on Tuesdays and Wednesdays ship via FedEx. They come here every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. pick up all the coolers. So then in the evening time on those days is when we do our invoicing, our credit card billing, processing, answer emails, do things like that, play on Facebook. On Friday, like today, I woke up, I went to Mooresville, North Carolina with a trailer, and we picked up 3 pallets of shipping coolers. So we do that about 3 Fridays out of the month. We have to go back down there and get the coolers. So we're really lucky in that we have dry ice delivered to us at a price which is extremely low because the facility that produces it, Airgas, is about 10 minutes away. And then 30 minutes away, we can go get the coolers and avoid any freight costs on the coolers. So that allows us to pass on the savings to the end users with shipping.
Right.
So it's pretty much nonstop. From Monday to Friday, it's very, very busy. And then if we end up going to a trade show like MACNA or Reefapalooza, we'll end up working the weekend prior to make food so that when we miss a Thursday, Friday, Monday due to the travel, we don't get behind. So we have our inventory system down. We have a remote cold storage facility not far from here where we store the pallets of PE mysis, for example, that we use because we're also a distributor for Piscine Energetics. And lost my train of thought.
There it went. It just went right out the patio.
What's going on? Oh, about how busy we are. So, we keep food in inventory, but we're turning it over very rapidly because we want to get the food into the pet store's hands so that it's not aging out in my freezers. It's being sold and turned over quickly there so that when the hobbyist gets it, that pack of seafood has organisms in it, such as the oysters and the clams and the fresh peeled shrimp that were swimming in the ocean maybe 2 weeks ago. And so with finicky feeders, that's a real important thing for us, is to get that food in, processed, frozen, and then out quickly, so that when you buy that copper band or that rare fish that may not be eating other foods, when you offer it something like ours, it will eat it more readily because it's fresh and smells good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I know in the past it was truly just you and your family working on this. I know your team has grown now. What's the LRS team look like these days?
It's exciting. Actually, today, this Friday, was my very first employee's 2-year anniversary from
Wow.
the day she started helping us. So it's my wife, it's myself. My wife left her job after I had taken off with the business. She left her career. So she's been working with me over a year. We've got one employee who just had a 2-year anniversary. We have another full-time employee that is working with us now. And then we have multiple part-time people that help on a contract basis. So, for example, when the shrimp start being harvested in the Carolinas, we will get hundreds of pounds of fresh shrimp, and they may be 40 to 50 size with the head on, or sometimes they can be 35, 40 size with the head on. And they will show up on Mondays and Thursdays, and we'll have a crew of contract people here working to peel and get all those exoskeletons and the heads off of those shrimp.
Okay.
So we have different people that assist us with packaging. We have an organic seaweed product that we buy by the container, and basically it's harvested in certified organic waters in Japan. It's brought in on a truck. We get it here. We have to unpackage it in bulk packaging and then put it into a retail packaging with a desiccant, heat seal it, and we have that product, which goes like gangbusters as well. So there's about 4 of us at any given time in the shop Monday through Friday working.
Okay.
So again, it's been exciting because, as a business owner, pretty much just self-taught, like as an average hobbyist, and then this just went on and on. I would never have thought 2 years ago that I'd actually be doing payroll every Friday and printing paychecks, but thank God for QuickBooks.
Yeah, that's awesome to see. So let's kind of change gears a bit and talk about the actual products that you offer. I know most people are going to be familiar with Reef Frenzy, but you have more than that. So.
Yeah, basically the 3 blends that we offer, if you take our Fish Frenzy product, which is, say, the bare bones product, it's got your basic 9 ingredients in there. It's got the perch, it's got the shrimp, the scallops, the clams, the oysters, the whitefish. It's got the Piscean energetics, mysis shrimp. It's got krill. It's got the beta-carotene. That's our basic Fish Frenzy diet. If you take that package and you take out about 30% of the meat and add in 2 different types of seaweed and then a little bit of broccoli flowers, that becomes our herbivore frenzy. It's basically just more geared for herbivorous fish. And then, of course, the Reef Frenzy is like the top product, which has everything that the fish and herb frenzy have in it, but it's got less vegetable matter, but we add in the coral-specific foods, such as the rotifers, the phytoplankton, a little bit of the zooplankton. That's the one that people want to feed the whole reef.
Right.
The oyster eggs, things like that. So the Fish Frenzy, Herbivore Frenzy, Reef Frenzy, and then we offer the Reef Frenzy Nano, which is a 4-ounce package of the Reef Frenzy, which is ground a little bit finer for smaller mouth fish, and we take out all the vegetables because you shouldn't have a tang in a nano cube.
Right.
So they're the main blends we have. We did release a blend that is called our Fish Frenzy Chunky Blend. It's the hand-chopped version of Fish Frenzy for predators. It started out as an unlabeled product for service companies only, but due to the requests for it and the demand for it, that's also become a very, very hot selling product. So that's pretty big pieces of scallop and fish, clam. I mean, we're talking stuff the size of a nickel to a quarter. So when you buy the chunky blend, be aware this is for your lions, your eels, your triggers, your puffers, things like that.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned probiotics in your foods. Can you tell me a little bit more about what benefit that has for folks, their fish in their tanks?
Sure. In early 2013, we started doing some research on probiotic water or probiotic dosed water and feeds that were used in aquaculture for many of the prawns, the shrimp, and the fish that are grown for human consumption. And there have been a couple studies that were done, or not studies, rather, articles that were released about that time. One of them was an advanced aquarist with raising clownfish. And they showed that by adding beneficial bacteria to the water or the diet, that juvenile fish grew up stronger, healthier, they had better fin development, they maintained their metabolism better, they put on weight better. So we started getting lactobacillus bacteria and adding it to our food. And then we were giving it out just on a trial basis and a test basis to see how it could benefit captive fish. Because in the wild, a lot of fish, just like humans, there's bacteria in their gut that helps them metabolize their food, break down their nutrients, absorb the nutrients better. And some of the data shows that through collection, medication, transportation, shipping, purging at the wholesalers, some of that gut bacteria in the fish can be disrupted. So when you get that fish home and it's not eating, it may not be because it just doesn't like to eat the food. There could be other issues going on, aside from parasites and other things that could infect the fish. We thought, hey, if we could give these fish a little step up, or maybe help them with their digestion or help them with their food, it could be beneficial. So at first it was kind of anecdotal, and we had to rely on the studies that have been done by aquaculture, who has far more resources and money than our hobby does. But the benefits kept coming back, or the experiences from the hobbyists kept coming back that, hey, my fish had head and lateral line erosion, it had this, it had other issues, it wasn't gaining weight, it had an emaciated stomach, but we started feeding your diet, and then it's done very, very well. So it's been, I guess, since 2013, all the foods have had the bacteria added to it. We've done multiple series of lab tests, which are on our website, that show that when you freeze the bacteria in the food, it goes dormant, but it doesn't die. It's like you have to cook your food, because freezing it doesn't kill the bacteria. So
Right.
hence we cook our food in boiled water to kill it. So when you bring the food back up to room temperature, the labs tested it. We found that there was, well over 1 million colony-forming units per gram of food, which is the way the bacteria is measured. And we've just been continuing to get really good feedback from people using the food. So it's probably a combination of just the great diversity and the freshness of the food with the probiotic component to it. So I think that it's just like a two-part benefit for the food, and it helps the fish.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Okay, so you've mentioned it a couple times already, but aside from hobbyist tanks, your foods are used in a variety of, public institutions, breeding projects. Can
mhm.
you tell us a bit about some of your favorite ones that have taken place?
Yeah, we've been really fortunate. We've had, like I said, the help of some of the leading marine biologists in the country that have given us some advice, and we've donated food to various projects and said, give us the feedback, good and bad, so we could improve it. We work with the Rising Tide Conservation Project, and we provide food to several people there that are using the food. You may have mentioned in Mackinac last year, we were there. You remember the G. personatus project
Yep.
was announced there, that Karen Britton had done that in Hawaii, breeding those rare angels. That was really awesome. That we were providing food for the broodstock in that instance. The Tropical Aqua Lab in Florida, Kevin Barden just made a great post on the Rising Tide blog that they bred the Melanoris wrasse in captivity, and LRS Reef Frenzy was named as the broodstock diet in that with P.E. myxus and also another dried food. So
Okay.
we actually went and visited them and met Kevin, and we talked to them. We saw the wrasses in Florida right after Reefapalooza. So that was really awesome to see that. There's a facility in Florida, a friend of mine, Jonathan Foster, who owns a company called Fisheye Aquaculture. He actually gave us a testimonial on the website. They breed many, many species of fish for public aquaria and also for retail stores. And he was one of the ones that had started using our food and noticed that they had more larger spawns, more robust larvae, and the juveniles were developing better using our food than some of the other foods that they were using. So Jonathan's been a great asset, put us in touch with some other people, such as Kevin over at the Tropical Aqua Lab. He's who introduced our foods to them. We have a couple public aquariums that we supply food to. One of them we're waiting to announce the quote-unquote partnership. It's kind of going through HR, and they don't want me kissing and telling just yet, but they're on their second order of food from us. They're a very well-known organization. They have multiple sites, and they're very prominent. So it's going to be a good, plug for us that they're basically using our food to streamline their feeding. So instead of ordering this, and this, they just take an 8-ounce slab of Reef Frenzy, chop it into 6 pieces and go around to the exhibits and drop a chunk, and
Okay.
they're done. So that's kind of cool. So there's a bunch on our website on reeffrenzy.com. I've updated the testimonial page to have a lot of these testimonials from the breeding projects and some of the other stuff that we've done. I know I'm probably forgetting to mention somebody, but
yeah, that's, I mean, all great stuff. Fantastic. So now this is kind of a topical thing from recent events. Can you tell me about the tests that you've had done on your food blends and what you found out about the products that you're putting together?
Well, in order to have a licensed pet food product legitimately, when we started this business, we went and got everything tested. We've got $2 million of product liability insurance, and there's certain things that the American Association of Feed Control Officials require. Your label has to have proteins, fats, moisture, fiber, and in some places ash. So all of our food blends have been tested for those 4 items. When we just changed the Fish Frenzy blend to include blackworms and fish eggs, we tested it again. And the protein went from 12% to 18%. So therefore, we had to print all new ingredient labels with that updated information and also listing the blackworms and fish eggs as an ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to that testing, we've had all the foods tested for mercury. We had other manufacturers' foods tested for mercury, and the amounts were negligible, as reviewed by Reef the Rainforest with Rhett Talbert, who wrote up 3 articles about why mercury isn't even something we should even be talking about in fish food. But going one step further, we had a complete fatty acid profile done on our Reef Frenzy and also the popular Fish Frenzy product, because the Fish Frenzy one with the blackworms and the eggs is being used a lot in aquaculture. So many of the lab results are posted on our website for everybody to see. The fatty acid tests are actually still being interpreted by some people because there's about 25 different things they test for, some of which I don't even know what those particular fatty acids are.
Okay.
Of course, it tells you what the DHA and the EPA fats are on your omega-3s and 6s. So there's a lot of testing that goes into fish foods, and I don't think a lot of people understand that, yes, this may have started as a guy in a kitchen with a blender making food for the local store, but now we export to 4 different countries, including Japan and Hong Kong. Many of those places, in addition to the duty and custom requirements, they have parasitic concerns, and you've got to show test results for your food to make sure that it's safe. So as we've grown, we've really done a lot of financial investing in making sure that our products are backed up with the lab sheets and the insurance and everything that would go with it. So even though our food is marked not for human consumption, if you have a toddler and she eats a bag of food and you have to take her to the emergency room, we're covered for that. And we're also covered liability-wise if it kills a rare fish in a public aquarium,
Mm-hmm.
and they do a necropsy and they say, hey, Reef Frenzy killed my fish, we want to sue you. We have protections from that as well as a manufacturer, because you have to do this legitimately.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So where can folks buy your products?
We have a dealer map on reeffrenzy.com. You can enter your zip code and you can search by location. I think it's up to 268 or 269 entries now. So we ship all over the United States, so you can get the food delivered to you if you have no local store that carries it. We want to do our best to support the local fish stores. So not only do we encourage you to have them order it to save you money on the shipping, but we want to see them have it so that they can have a good product which is available to help their fish and also help their customers do better with their purchases. So in the event that somebody can't find a store nearby, give us a call. We'll try to get you a sample for the local fish store. We can try to get a small order together for you to take over there for them. But when we reach out to most fish stores that are interested in a good product, it does very well. So it's a very competitive priced product, and it offers the convenience and benefits to the store owner that a lot of the other frozen foods out there do as well.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I would definitely encourage folks listening to this, if you want to try out Larry's products and nobody local has it, walk into your fish store and talk to them. That's exactly what I did, and that's why Larry's food is in my freezer right now. So, it was a lot easier than having it shipped right to my door, and now it's available to everybody else in my area. So,
yeah, appreciate it.
So, all right, Larry, so the last thing I want to end on is what's next for LRS? I know you've always got something up your sleeve, so can you give us anything that's on the horizon?
Actually, Chris, we've just been so busy and so slammed with everything that we've had a couple ideas that we wanted to run with, but we literally don't have enough days in the week to make all the blends we want to make. So there's a couple other things that we're looking at, and I keep saying that we're going to get a summer slowdown, and then we're going to be able to release this. Well, now that we've gotten into public aquaria, who are ordering much more quantity than I anticipated, the summer slowdown is not going to happen. So we've got MACNA coming up. We're going to be excited about being in DC for MACNA, seeing a bunch of our industry friends there. But aside from the other project, we had talked about releasing a freshwater food, which we had beta tested with very good feedback. We took out a lot of the marine organisms. We added in some more freshwater food. We added in more vegetable matter. We added in spirulina brine shrimp. It's a great product, and it was very well received. But like I said, I told you my schedule. We make food on Monday or Tuesday through Thursdays, and then sometimes on the weekend we ship on Mondays, and then Friday is a errand day to go caught up on other errands. So the last thing I want to do is create a demand for this freshwater food, because if I do that, it's just going to be off the hook.
Well, when you figure out how to add another day into the week, you can let me know, because that would be nice as well.
I know.
All right, Larry. Well, that's pretty much all I have for you today. Thanks so much for your time.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
All right, have a good one. Bye. So there you have it, frozen fish food blends for your marine aquarium. If you feed frozen to your tanks, tell us what your favorite brand is in the comments below. Also, in the description, I'll include some links to Larry's website as well as his dealer map if you're interested in picking up some LRS products. That's it for now. I have been Caribbean Chris Aldrich. This has been Salt Speak, and we'll see you next time.